My first job in the morning is to make coffee. I'm not a big coffee drinker, but my wife is. And then we sit there, and I'll show you that. We sit there and we look at our iPads. My wife looks at her tennis or her piano or golf. And I do a little bit of reviewing of flashcards or reading. So I'll show you that later on, but at least this is the start of my day. I've finished breakfast and cleared the table. Haven't yet done the breakfast dishes, but I've got a few things to clean up, so I'll do that while listening. But I'm sitting here enjoying my iPad. And basically right now you'll see here that I have a number of lessons here, varying it from sort of casual conversation and more serious articles from the Voice of Russia, which, some of the stuff is quite interesting. This particular item, you can see it highlighted in blue, has to do with the oil industry and pipelines between Russia and China. But before I go through the text again, and bear in mind I've already gone through the text once on my computer creating links, I like to go through the flashcards. And the way I do flashcards is I put everything up front. Like, I'm not going to scratch my brain here. I put the word, the translation, and the captured phrase all up front. And if I want, I can listen to it. And listening to it a few times helps kind of soak it in. Because to me, flashcarding is all about exposure. It's not about trying to spend all kinds of time racking my brain for stuff that I can't remember. And so then I just move it along. And we go to the next flashcard. And if I want, I listen to that. And so I go through that, and there's quite a bunch. Like, I've got 98 flashcards to go through, but I'll go through them quite quickly. And then when I've finished that, then I will go here and open up the lesson, and then I'll read through the lesson. And inevitably, there are words that, that I don't remember, so I'll have to tap on them to see what they are. If I, in fact, remember that one, I might move it up in status towards known. And, of course, the thing about reading and listening is that you always have the impression that it's always difficult, always the same places you don't understand when reading and listening. But I know from experience that over time you get better. And all of a sudden, the brain gets used to the patterns of this language. So just a brief thing on how I use the iPad. And I'll probably spend a good hour or two today with the iPad. So there you have it, some snippets of my study day. I should tell you a secret. I'm hoping to put in 2, 3, or more hours a day into learning my Korean. I can afford to do that now because I'm sort of semi-retired. I've worked for more than 45 years. But when I was learning Russian and to a large extent Czech and some of the earlier languages, literally all the time I had was driving to work, driving home, doing the dishes, exercising. So it was like 70% listening. So I expect that in 3 months of Korean, I'm hoping with that amount of time that I'm going to make significant progress. But I can tell you, when I was learning Russian and I only had an hour or so a day mostly listening, 3 months would go by and I wasn't aware of any progress. I mean, it took me 5 years to reach, well, I spent a good 5 years at it, but yeah, my comprehension was starting to come after a few years, but it took a long time. And nothing wrong with that. I feel tremendously happy that I can understand Russian movies. I can read the newspaper. I can listen to audiobooks. I can communicate with mistakes. There's always someone at YouTube who comes on and tells me that my Russian is no good or my Spanish is no good, which is fine. It works. If I had only one language to concentrate on, I would really, take it to that extra level. But it serves its purpose. It's enabling me to communicate with another culture and another language. So the point I wanted to make is, I have a lot of time to spend, so I'm doing a lot of stuff. If I have dedicated time, I'm reading, I'm linking. For the longest time, I only had that passive listening time, or 70, 80%. So however much time you have, do it and stay with it. And the more time you put in, the more obvious will be the results. And if you haven't got that much time, it may seem that you're not getting anywhere, but you have to stay with it, because when you get to that level, when you get those eureka moments, it's tremendously satisfying. I think we have a tendency to expect too much short-term gain, and then we underestimate how much we really improve
in the long term. So that's the end of my day 9.